Hello, everyone, and welcome to Week 9 of Kickoff Talk. I'm Jeff Kirik, sports editor of the Erie Times News, and I'm joined by Tom Reisenweber, as always. We're here to talk a little football, and it's actually Week 9 of the regular season, which is the last full week of the regular season. Next week, we have a partial regular season week and partial playoffs. Tom, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it finally feels like football weather. It's been nice and warm the first 8 weeks, so I got some fall weather here. But probably only a handful of games left on the schedule now for regular season next week. We have the 5A playoffs starting, 2A playoffs, 1A playoffs, and we'll have the 6A championship with McDowell and Erie, of course.
That was pre-assigned before the seasons, of course, because there are only two 6A teams. They will meet at Veterans Stadium next week.
And it's funny, Erie High had one home game at Veterans Stadium, but now this week they're playing at Veterans Stadium against Prep, and next week they'll play Veterans Stadium against McDowell for the D-10 title.
And that game was switched to Veterans Stadium from Dollinger Field for whatever reason.
Well, all of a sudden there's two soccer matches there, and one is Villa at McDowell, which should happen every single year. I don't know why they don't play every year, but that's another story, I guess.
I hear you. But before we hit next week and we start hitting the playoffs, there are some playoff implications this week, particularly in Region 2, Region 6, and Region 7.
Yeah, look at Region 2. Maple Woods wrapped it up, basically. Even if they lose, they're still the number one seed. So they're good to go.
And I have one to interrupt you. I saw that they entered the state rankings for the first time.
Yeah, I don't know the last time Maple Woods been in the state rankings, but they're in the top 10.
They're 8-0 and having a heck of a year.
Yeah, right behind Farrell. Looks like those two could be on a collision course to play each other for the D-10 title. So they're good to go. J.D. McFadden became the first 5,000-yard quarterback in Crawford County history, and he's having a great career for them. They go to Sagertown. That should be a win for them to go to 9-0 on the season. Union City is at Cambridge Springs. Now, this could be interesting because Cambridge Springs, if they win this game, they're the 2 seed, and Union City drops to the 3. So that's going to be a big game coming up this week. But Cambridge, Eisenhower, Cochranton, all fighting for those last 3 spots in the playoffs. I think Eisenhower was the only one that opted out, so we're going to see some of the teams in the playoffs. But the goofy one's a 2A. There's only 4 teams left now. So we're going to have Northwestern, who's the Region 3 automatic, taking on Lakeview in the quarterfinal. The winner plays Greenville, and the winner of that plays Wilmington in the D-10 championship game.
Is there some reason they can't reorganize that to make it semifinals when there are 4 teams? Doesn't it seem? Tom was mentioning it seems like the PBA step-ladder finals where you play one team, play another team, play another team. And because there's one quarterfinal, one semifinal, and a final, which really I've never heard of other than in the bowling.
Yeah, and they could easily switch that around and fix that. But District 10, when they came up with the open playoffs and the opt-outs, they said they're not going to reseed. So we're stuck with situations like this, which seems crazy. I mean, especially because if you move that Northwestern, have them play Greenville in the semifinal and Lakeview play Wilmington, this coming week or next week you could have had Girard Northwestern, which we haven't had now for 2 years in a row. That game's gone again because Northwestern Lakeview.
And really, for local fans, especially West County fans, for Northwestern not to play Girard it seems sort of silly when they're next door neighbors. And that's one thing that we've talked about throughout the years is the District 10 has tried to find the sweet spot in terms of regions and in terms of when teams play crossovers, what teams they play out of region and so forth. And they have to come up with a way to make sure that teams such as those two play each other.
And there's examples
every year.
There's examples all around. Greenville and Reynolds do not play each other, and they're in the same town. It's just crazy to me. So hopefully next year we'll have a new cycle, new regions, maybe multi-class regions. This year we 8 regions, which is nuts. So
now there's also something in Region 6 going on here.
Yeah, Harbor Creek. They're the 1 seed. They've wrapped that up. They're going to probably go to 9-0, which is a great season for them. They're hosting Corey this week. Mercy's Prep's wrapped up the number 2 seed. So you already have the matchups there. Harbor Creek's going to play Slippery Rock in the first round of the 3A playoffs. Mercy's Prep's going to play Grove City. So the rest of it's still to be determined. Corey, Girard, Northeast, Fairview are all alive for these last couple spots. Corey with a loss. Girard is going to take on Titusville. That's probably a win to go to 3-3, move into 3rd place.
Is Fairview playing then?
Yes.
Okay.
Fairview's at Iroquois. I'm not sure if they have a chance. I believe they have opted out, and so is Titusville.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they'd opted out.
And so I think it's going to come down to a tiebreaker with Northeast. I think they're going to probably lose Mercy's Prep. And you still have to factor in Fairview on the tiebreaker because they will be tied. And if they end up getting that spot, then we could go empty. Yeah, because they opted out.
Is that right?
It is.
That's amazing.
But Northeast has beaten both Corey and Fairview, so Northeast should be in as the 4, even with a loss at Mercier's Prep this week. So so it looks like the 3A field is pretty much set unless there's a major upset this week.
And what will we do without Tom to figure out this morass of stuff going on? It's a hard thing to figure out why a team that would be possibly opting out would have an effect on the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems silly.
Yeah, because they basically go through and they make the bracket without opt-outs first, and then they apply the opt-outs. So if Fairview had ended up being in the 4 seed, they would have, been in that spot would have gone empty. So it's just, which is kind of crazy to me. Because if your team's opting out, shuffle it around, move around the seeds and everything like that.
And as we know, Class 4A is already predetermined, just like Class 6A is. It's going to be Fort LaBeouf versus Cathedral Prep, but Region 7 still has something to figure out.
Well, I think we're pretty much set. Just going through the scenarios here, Oil City is going to be the one. It should go to 9-0 this week. We'll see what happens there. Meadville, they've been rolling. They should be the number 2 seed. Fort LaBeouf's in 3rd. They're in 4A, so it doesn't matter. Warren, McLean, and Franklin. Warren is at Franklin this week, and if they win, they're the 3 seed. McLean would be the 4 seed head-to-head. Well, actually, you wouldn't even need a head-to-head tiebreaker because Franklin would be 1-5. Then you look at if Warren loses to Franklin, there'd be a 3-way tie for 3rd place. I believe Warren, because of their 5 wins in non-region play, would have the points over the other 2. So once they're in as the 3, you go back to head-to-head. McLean beat Franklin, so they'd be the 4. So I think no matter what, Warren's going to be the 3, McLean's the 4. Franklin opted out anyway, so I think we're set in the 5A field with a 14 bracket.
So this has sort of turned into our bracketology kickoff talk. Tom always puts out the bracketology stuff. I'm glad you can figure that out for us. The one of the games this week, interesting one, of course, Erie at Cathedral Prep. At Cathedral Prep means at Veterans Stadium, as we discussed. But Prep coming off a sort of, a game where they just wanted to get out with a win at Canisius and won 21-12.
Yeah, we talked about Canisius always plays them tough every year.
They do every year.
And Prep surprisingly makes a quarterback change at halftime, go to Tamar Sample, and he rushed for a touchdown, threw a touchdown pass second half. So that's big. We'll see what happens Friday if he's still in there or Colin Johnson's back in there. But what a tough last couple weeks for Erie. They play St. Joe's. They play, it's one of those things where it was 24-6 at one point, and all of a sudden Erie scores late in the 4th quarter. If they get 2-point conversion, it's an 8-point game. So they were almost on the comeback trail. Trayvon Tate broke a couple long touchdowns. J.J. Woodward is dealing with a shoulder injury, played, I think, 2 plays in that game at 1 carry for 1 yard. Couldn't go back in, so he might be out for the season with that shoulder injury, which is a tough loss for them. So they're relying on a lot of the different guys that are coming in off the bench. They're kind of a young team now for Erie High. So, you get to lose that game on Saturday, your big homecoming game, probably going to lose to Prep, and then you got to take on McDowell next week in the D-10 title game. So it's a tough time for Erie High right now.
Tom, what are some of the other games you're seeing throughout District 10 this week? One that jumps off the page to me is Oil City at Slippery Rock. Yeah,
that could be an interesting game. Oil City, kind of the same kind of teams, both really run hard, doing a great job this year with their running attack and playing solid defense as well. I think one of the games of the week might be Meadville at Grove City. That was a really tough game to pick. Grove City's having a really good year, even though they lost a lot of graduation. Meadville is on the comeback trail after being 0-9 last year. They're on their revenge tour, trying to knock off everyone they lost to last year. So that could be a very interesting game. Fort LaBeouf at Sharon, you never know what Fort LaBeouf's going to do on the road. They're always a tough team to keep offenses, kind of slow them down a little bit. But McDowell at Austintown Fitch, that could be the game of the week as well. Austintown Fitch, I think they're 3-4 right now, and they're fighting for that playoff spot in the OHSAA playoffs. So they need a big win over McDowell, who has a great record. The Ohio system, you really get rewarded for being teams that have great records. So this is a big game for Austintown Fitch.
I hear you. The one other game that I was looking at was Wilmington at Hickory. I don't know if Hickory has enough to sort of threaten undefeated Wilmington, but that's at least an interesting one between a recent Class 2A power and the current 2A power.
And Hickory's been playing well this year. They shared the region title, which I think surprised a lot of people. They kind of call us out a little bit. The coach tweeting the Region 5 predictions in the magazine saying they weren't mentioned anywhere as far as dark horse or contenders. And
why would that be, Tom?
Rightfully so. They came through and had a big year. And it's one of those things where Hickory, you never know with a new coach. They didn't have a great season last year, so I think on paper they probably shouldn't have been among the contenders, but they really have risen to the occasion this year.
And it appears that they're back in terms of they're back to being the top level type of team. Whether they win a title or not, I don't know, but they're back. It looks like the program is back, getting back to where it was.
Yeah, and Bill Dungy's done a great job there this year with kind of building the confidence back up with them. So I don't think they can beat Wilmington, but Wilmington, they've had a really good season so far. They're undefeated. And then you look at Farrell. 6 straight shutouts now for them. They're going to Greenville. I'm not sure Greenville can score on that defense, but we'll see. It could be an interesting game.
Another interesting one is Reynolds at Northwestern. Northwestern obviously coming off the loss to Conneaut, Ohio, where they had a chance to win the region title, but Conneaut seems to have their number. Reynolds coming off a tough loss to Farrell.
Yeah, this is a nice tune-up game for Northwestern because Reynolds and Lakeview are kind of similar teams where they run the ball a lot. So it's kind of a nice preparation for the playoff game for Northwestern. Reynolds comes in looking to kind of bounce back after that tough loss and get ready for the postseason.
What's interesting is Northwestern can play both Reynolds and Greenville, but Reynolds and Greenville, who are a few minutes apart, can't play each other.
Exactly.
So I don't get that. One other matchup we sort of spoke about off camera was Seneca at General McLean. I'm not sure why that game is scheduled.
I think the only reason to play it is it's General McLean's senior night. It's tough. Seneca came off a tough loss to Iroquois. That was probably their chance to win a game this year if they had a chance, other than playing Lakeview. General McLean, I guess you got to tune up, get ready for the playoffs. They're going to have a tough game coming up against Oil City next week, so this is a nice tune-up game for them to get ready, get some momentum going.
Okay. Next week is week 10, and we're going to get the playoffs all ready for you next week, along with the last week of the regular season. First, we got to go through this week. Look for our call, Tom's picks. He's doing pretty well this year. Also, look for the District 10 rankings that will be out on Wednesday. And look for coverage all weekend, both in the Erie Times News and GoErie.com, especially on Saturday morning, of a recap of all the Erie County games. Thanks for joining us for Kickoff Talk.